Good morning. Have you ever wondered if should be concerned about some skin cancer? Have you ever wondered if your loved one should be at home, maybe with care, or if they should be placed? We have a fabulous guest on with us today, and we're going to talk about some warning signs with cancer. Apparently, that was one of our caregiver questions. I'm Mary Winters, the owner of About Senior Solutions, and a gerontologist, providing this resource for you because we want you to have the best situation as you age, with resources and support and anything that you need to make your life as comfortable and supported as possible. So let me go ahead and we'll bring Stephen in. Let me see if I can find his intro. Here we go. Morning,
Good morning,
Steve.
Mary.
How are you?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Good. Yeah, this question is caregiver question. I don't know if it's a personal question or if it's on behalf of somebody else, but this is very near and dear to my heart, actually.
Yes, it's not a personal question, but something I think a lot of us deal with. So it comes from one of our viewers, and their mom is in assisted housing, and they went to visit their mom recently, and they see signs that might be melanoma,
Oh,
and they were curious on what they could do to, like, how do they get that treated? How do they get it looked at? What are the steps they need to take? They mentioned that cancer is an issue in their family, so it's kind of
oh,
a sensitive topic. They don't want to alert or worry their mom, but they want to make sure that this is looked at. So, what would be the process for getting that checked out for someone that's in assisted housing?
sounds really important. And, as we age, especially people who are more fair, it's really important to have your skin checked regularly. And if you see anything that looks like it's changing shape, changing color, it's something you should really be aware of and make sure that your doctor sees that or you get a check annually with your dermatologist. I know my dermatologist very intimately now. I had just a freckle on my arm, and I had something on my back that was kind of bugging me. So I went to have that checked, and I said, "Oh, by the way, have this checked." And so last November, at the end of after Thanksgiving, I was diagnosed with aggressive stage 2 melanoma. And I
Mm.
tell everybody about this now because it wasn't that big of a deal. It didn't itch. That can be a sign. But it changed really quickly, really rapidly within a very short period of time, like just a couple months. It started changing a shape. And the dermatologist looked at my back, said, that's nothing. She goes, but that's suspect. And so went to an oncology doctor who removed that. And thankfully, I don't have to have any other treatment. And I keep sharing this story too, because I've had two friends since go in to see their dermatologist after I was checked, and they have also had earlier stages of melanoma. And if you catch it early, it's wonderful. I know of a couple other people who were stage 3, and it was more aggressive, deeper. They look at the size and the depth. Apparently, the depth is a big concern. There are some great cancer melanoma specialists, if you are diagnosed, that you can
Mhm.
get second opinions or initial opinions from. Check your insurance, check your with your doctor to get those referrals right away. I had a brand new doctor too, and so I wasn't really acquainted with her. Called her, told her what my situation was because I was going to need a referral to dermatology. Have the best dermatologist now, and we got that taken care of before it became an issue. So, signs are definitely something changing in color, shape, itching, kind of crustiness. But definitely have your doctor check that out. So, um, thank you for that question. That's really a great question. So, I'm not sure what happened to Steve. He just kind of vanished. But we have a fantastic guest with us today, and we're going to bring him up right now. Um, he has SoCal Senior Services, Senior Care. And we're going to bring Eric into our discussion right now and see more about the service that he offers. Hey, Eric, how are you?
Hi, Mary. Good morning. How are you doing?
I'm wonderful. Yeah, it was a little jarring, a little nerve wracking maybe for you this morning. I'm sorry it was kind of last minute when you were able to get on, but you look fantastic and you've got great information to share with us. Tell us more about your business and what you offer.
Well, thank you. Yeah, not jarring at all. And I really appreciate the information you gave about skin cancer. I think that's a really important topic and something that, needs to be treated seriously. We've had cancer go through my family and all about early detection,
It
early
is.
approach to having a proactive approach to that to save lives. So that's a good point. I'm the founder and owner of SoCal Senior Care. What we are is a senior living placement and care coordination company. We started 6 years ago. I came from a legal background, and then I worked as a caregiver for 6 years as well in memory care. And I decided to combine the two things and create basically a senior advocacy resource and a group
Nice.
for families. And that mainly came out of the process that, there's so much red tape today, especially in California, but across the nation, red tape in terms of navigating resources and being able to bridge the gap between income and level of care need. And so that's where we come in. We come in and we try to help families navigate all of those idiosyncrasies and the red tapes to try to help get them the quality care that they deserve. Our mission statement, what we believe is that every senior, regardless of income, deserves quality care. So what we try to do with every phone call that comes through is accomplish that goal. That's our mission.
Fantastic. So walk us through a typical scenario with your families.
Okay, sure, no problem. Yeah, so a lot of times what we'll have is we'll have a family that gives us a call. There's always an event that takes place. There'll be a
Of course.
stroke,
Yeah.
fall, some sort of injury, something that sends them to an acute facility, a hospital, and then they go from there to post-acute. They go to a skilled nursing facility, and that's when things get real. That's when the social worker, case manager tells the family, look, we're discharging in 15 days. Where's mom going? And they're like, well, we're not qualified medical professionals to handle the level of care that she needs now. What are we going to do? And the social workers are doing the best they can. They're working with a huge caseload, constantly rotating beds. What we are is an additional resource or a tool for families and for social workers to help coordinate a long-term care solution for mom or dad.
Nice.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming, do you work with home care and with placement?
That's correct. We do both. We really got into home care during COVID because, understandably, a lot of families were not interested in putting their loved one in a long-term care facility with fear of COVID and with fear of isolation and things like that. So that's during COVID is when we really got into home care coordination. So what we did is we struck partnerships with our very vetted and trusted home care agencies that we work with so that we can help get families either home care, long-term care placement, or connect them to a myriad of other resources depending on what they need.
That's great. Yeah, that's really important. And I think your services are free then, right? Are they?
That's completely free to families, and I'm really glad you made that point. I like to tell families right off the gate that they should never be charged for advocacy or guidance or assistance in these types of things. And if someone is ever trying to charge them for that, then you need to steer clear. What we do, we get reimbursed from facilities and in other ways, and we don't charge families a dime for putting this on board to help them. And that's one thing I love about what I do is that we get to work directly with our clients, which is our families, without ever needing any sort of exchange. So that's something I love.
Yeah, no, it's great. And I will actually mention the scenarios where that is correct, where somebody may want to pay somebody, because we actually work with agencies like yours frequently, and because we like them to be able to You're often very up on the locations and so forth, and especially the smaller boarding cares, some of those more intimate little boutique kind of settings. And but sometimes they still want a care manager, and that's what we provide as care management, to review those with them, and or know that if there are other options, because somebody may not have a contract with those locations, that they're not limited to just certain locations that a contracted organization might have. So I agree. I think it's very important to make sure that we're stretching that that money out for people. But I've also had people who wouldn't work with us when we worked with placement agencies, which was really interesting. And I didn't really necessarily understood why, but they wanted a very unbiased opinion where they weren't, there's no commission either. So I think your service is extremely important and valuable, and we use placement often. So I understand exactly what you're saying in regards to really reducing costs for families. I think that's super, super important. But I will add that caveat for you too. So
well thank you for doing that. Yeah. That's a totally different, that's a subcategory of what I'm discussing. When it comes to absolutely, if you're going to provide a level of care management and do the services that you just explained, then yeah, absolutely, there's going to be an exchange of money for said services, right? But when it comes, what I'm speaking about is
I know exactly what you're talking about. I think it's great. I think the service is important, and like I said, oftentimes some of these smaller boutique organizations, the boarding cares, much better than we do. So it really broadens our ability to really present additional options to families too. So I think it's really, really helpful. And if people want to stay home, they can do that too. So
100%. And Mary, I want to also mention that one of the other things that we do is we work with several nonprofits in the area. We work in 4 counties: LA, Riverside, San Bernardino, and Orange County. And we work with nonprofits that help bridge the gap too. So if we get a family that is on just SSI or just on Medi-Cal or Medicaid, and they're desperate, they need help, we can also provide resources to them. We do a nice warm handoff and we work together as partners with a few different nonprofits that are able to really get solutions for these families. So
that's really amazing. That's super important. So share a story about one of the families that you were working with in the past or more recently right now, about how you've kind of walked them through that process.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, so I mean, we've had a family recently that came to us. And by the way, we don't work with all low incomes. My goal is to work with any income level, any level of care, to be able to provide some sort of solution for them. But the ones that are, I think, interesting are the ones that are difficult. And that means difficult meaning they have a high level of care and they have a lower income. So those are the stories that come to mind when you ask me that question. And so the last family that we had come through, mom was a ambulatory dementia diagnosed patient, and she was a sliding scale diabetic. Okay, so try to place that, right? I don't know if you're aware, but those are types of things that really kick people out of a lot of options.
Right, especially insulin dependent. Yeah.
Correct. So because of SoCal Senior Care's relationship with the administrators at a lot of facilities, and we wouldn't be anything without our relationships with our providers.
Yeah.
Like the whole entire business. If we don't have quality relationships, good communication, then we can't be of service to families. So what we did is we utilized those relationships. I spoke to the administrators, and we found that we got a doctor on board that looked at her information, and we were able to transition her from hand-on-head injections to oral tab that allowed her to manage her blood sugar. We tested this; it was successful, and then she was now approved to go to the facility. We found the facility also to have flight risk management, so that was handled well, as in addition to the sliding scale diabetes. And so trying to meet those needs was a joy for us to solve that problem that catch
That's why we use guys like you, because you know these
Yeah.
places really well. You know what they can handle and what they can't, and it's important for us to be able to find that location and partner with you to know that we're getting the right place. In fact, I'm thinking I've got a little diagram here. I'm going to add it in here really quick too. You're not familiar with this, so I apologize. But just when we do put a plan together for people, we look at what their wishes are, how do we keep them safe, and what is their financial situation. So it's super helpful when we're working with someone who right off the bat knows that this is what these particular organizations charge. And like you mentioned, we have somebody who may walk away because his memory loss prevents him from understanding he needs to stay where he is. And so we can keep him safe. And he may not be able to verbalize the intention of where he wants to live, and or his financial situation is not going to allow him to stay safe at home. So that's why I built this model to say, things change, the arrow around the edge, it changes. He might need another different type of a location in 5 years. But for right now, this is a great fit for him, considering these premises that we have to work with. So great job. Sounds really nice.
Yeah. Are you going to throw up a diagram here? Or?
I did already.
Oh, I can't see it.
Oh, I didn't know you couldn't see it. Yeah.
So based on what you're telling me, I think that's excellent. I think it's really important to provide diagrams and visual orientation for these types of processes. I mean, like I said, red tape is one of our specialties. There's so much different there's such a specific way of getting to our goal that families are, when they're emotionally exhausted and they've been providing 24/7 memory care and they don't know what to do anymore. We try to be that rational, we try to be boots on the ground for them and help them navigate this stuff. One thing that we did that's different in a lot of places, there's a lot of placement agency, right? And then there's a place for mom and things like that. And the thing is that we don't just provide people with a list of facilities and then claim that we are entitled to anything. That's not how we work. The way we work is we try to do a very formal intake process. So we on our website at socalseniorcare.org we have a HIPAA compliant intake form. So an application for care there. And this form is very detailed. It talks about ADLs, activities of daily life. It talks about, all the medical concerns, needs, history, and so forth. What we do is we compare that then, after that's completed, to the required forms from the state for transfer, which is the 602 evaluation, physician's report. Between our intake and the physician's report, we've got a really, really clear picture of exactly what the needs are for this elderly loved one.
Which is important, yeah.
It's so important, you know why? Because our goal is a sustainable placement. It's not going to throw in somebody into a place because, we could get them there and then 6 months having them say, we can't handle this.
You're right. And Eric, I know of placement agencies who actually try to move their people in another 30 to 90 days because they can make another commission off of that. So kudos to you.
It kills
you want to. It does.
Horrible.
It does. It is. It often is not a good situation unless the setting is just not a good setting for them. It is typically not good to continue moving somebody. So
it's so traumatizing, and I couldn't agree with you more.
It is.
Put it this way. Do you like change? It's like
nobody does. And think about even when you go away to college and how tough that is, kind of meeting new people and creating a new, and you're capable, you're an able person who can see well and hear well and walk well and communicate well and process your thoughts. Then put somebody in a situation where they're brand new, they have some sort of deficits, they're a little more fearful potentially, but they're not able to communicate sometimes on the same level, which is also really important to know what kind of activity program or engagement that they have in your facilities too, so that we know what kind of connections they're supporting their residents to make. which is also really a cool thing too. A great question to ask. Yeah, I have your company name down below here, SoCalSeniorCare.org. Tell us one more thing that you really appreciate about the services that you offer.
Like I said, because our why statement, why we exist, is because we believe that all people deserve access to quality care. If it comes down to educating families, it comes down to sitting next to someone and listening. And what we do is, unlike some of our competitors, is we sit down and we really listen. And if that means that connecting them to VA survivors pension benefits or a specialist to help them apply for things that they're entitled to but they weren't aware of,
Yeah.
that could entire level of care that their loved one can get. It can mean an additional $1,400 a month, and just $500 a month, $1,000 a month is going to dramatically change their search criteria, where they can look, where they can go, the quality care that they can receive. And there's a major divide in America right now because the average retirement income, their average, cost of full-time long-term care, they're not lining up. It's a huge gap, and that's why we exist. We exist because we're trying to bridge that gap, essentially. And it's very rare that we get a family that has no budget. Okay, we do that, take care of them very well, right? Because we're very connected. But that being said, the majority of our phone calls are people that have this huge gap of like, what do we do?
It's tough. It's like the rental areas now too. It's just really getting really hard. You know what? We're going to move on to our next segment, but please think about Eric when you need placement or home care. SoCal seniorcare.org. And if you can stay to the end, Eric, we'll have you come back on with us. How's that?
Sounds great. Thank you so much, Mary.
All right. Very passionate about his work. I really appreciate the service that he offers, which is really wonderful. And I'm going to go ahead and we're going to bring Melinda in and hear a little bit more about what she has to say. Good morning. How are you?
How are you?
Good. Yeah, we talked a little bit about skin cancer, and I think you wanted to talk a little bit about healthy skin and how that glowing skin.
I'm so fair that any talk about preventing skin cancer is always a good idea, in my opinion. There's a couple of dietary changes people can make to protect themselves from developing skin cancer. The first being increasing antioxidant-rich foods. And those are foods that are really colorful. So colorful fruits and vegetables, berries, spinach, kale, bell peppers, and then some nuts and seeds. So if you can incorporate some of those colorful foods into your diet and then nuts and seeds, antioxidants neutralize harmful free radicals that contribute to skin damage. So they are protective against skin cancers, developing skin cancers. The second change you can make is including a lot of omega-3 fatty acids into your diet. And those come from fatty fish like salmon, mackerel, sardines. You can also get omega-3 fatty acids from flax seeds or chia seeds, and even walnuts. And omega-3s have anti-inflammatory properties that can reduce inflammation and protect your skin cells.
Nice.
And then the third and final change for our, our little advice for today is limiting processed and red meats. But it's very specifically processed and red meats. So reducing consumption of meats like sausages or bacon or luncheon meats, and then red meats, but opting for lean protein sources. So instead choosing poultry, fish, lean sources. Processed meats and red meats, they've been associated with all types of increased risk of all types of cancer, including skin cancer. So that's another great idea. I've kind of used to always eat pepperoni pizza, and now I choose mushrooms or, something green bell pepper would be great for protecting the skin. just to kind of subtly make those choices over the course of,
Sure.
your week.
Right. Are truly cutting a breast of chicken or a breast of turkey that you can get that are roasted at the store. I would imagine that's better than having your sliced processed meats.
Yeah. Yeah.
We grew up on that.
Yeah. And those pre-sliced processed meats that don't have the bones in them that you get at the deli, those have a lot of preservatives, and they're treated because they're processed, and that's, I guess, what increases the risk of developing cancers. Colon cancer is processed meats is a huge risk for developing colon cancer. So.
Oh yeah, I would imagine. Yeah. We definitely grew up on bologna though.
Yeah, me too.
Sure.
Bologna was like the thing. Bologna and white bread, right?
Yeah.
Like the childhood snack, the childhood lunch.
Exactly. I'm going to bring Steve back in too.
Hi, Steve.
And we have.
Hello. How are y'all?
Did you know that it's Serendipity Day?
I did not know that.
You go to the perk, it's Serendipity Day. And I don't know if it's serendipity. Actually, I didn't realize this, but it came from a book that somebody wrote, but about the three princes of Serendip. And somebody turned the term into serendipity because what was happening was serendipitous with all these wonderful things that were happening with the three princes, apparently. So just a little perk fact. And let me go ahead and also share with you. You can get your free perk if you contact Ginny in our office at Ginny, Ginny at About Senior Solutions, and she'll make sure that you get on our email list, and you can forward that to whoever you want. Enjoy that with your grandkids, your loved ones. Just a great conversation starter and a way to connect with other people. So let me go ahead and we'll bring Eric in too. Why don't you tell us what day in sports history this is?
Sure. Are you going to bring Eric in? You want me?
I think he's here. Here he is.
All right. Eric, are you a sports fan?
Oops, I've got him on mute. Here we go. Now I can talk. Are you a sports fan, Eric?
Yeah, so relatively, you know what? I'll be honest. I'm an extreme sports fan.
Ooh,
I'm into the gravity games, snowboarding, BMX, motocross, things like that. Things that like to break bones. So I don't really follow the traditional sports arena, so to speak. So I'm probably not your best consultant on that topic.
Well, this may or may not interest you then. But the year was 1951, and the location was St. Louis. The St. Louis Browns were a Major League Baseball team at the time. Their owner was Bill Veeck. He was quoted as saying, "I try not to break the rules, but I like to test their elasticity." So he was notorious for gimmicks and creating buzz. And on this date in 1951, the smallest baseball player to ever participate in a game batted. His name was Edward Carl Gadel. He stood 3 feet 7 inches tall. He was signed like 2 days prior to this game. It was a second game of a doubleheader. The Browns were playing the Detroit Tigers, and Gadel replaced the opening batter. He was a pinch batter. His strike zone was about a little over 2 inches wide. He walked on 4 straight pitches. He was instructed to not swing the bat. There was threats if he were to swing the bat. So he ended up walking on 4 straight pitches. He got a standing ovation on his way to first base. He was subsequently replaced by a pinch runner. That was his only plate appearance. The number that he wore in that game was 1/8. So 1/8. And interestingly, he was signed to a contract a couple of days prior to this game, but this is back in 1951. So that paperwork had to go to the commissioner's office. And before the commissioner's office or anybody else had word of this, the game had already taken place and he was able to participate. The contract on the next business day was subsequently voided out. And that actually changed the policy in Major League Baseball for contracts and when players could officially make an appearance.
Oh, wow. Interesting. Well, there's such a big thing with contracts and recruiting and the lineup as far as, what round you're in for, for these guys being contracted. Longtime friend, son, actually both of his sons now have both been brought into the pros. One is over in Ohio and one is over in Oakland, and they are probably going to compete against each other this year too, which will be kind of interesting. So
Nice.
Thanks for that story, everybody. You have a fantastic weekend.
Yes,
We're
stay
going to
safe.
go
We're
ahead
getting rain.
and stay. Yeah, we've got that hurricane coming in. I guess we haven't had a hurricane in California since 1939. I think we'll get a lot of rain, but it should kind of subside by the time it gets through to us. So batten the hatches and stay safe.
Excellent. Love your presentation, Eric.
Hey, thank you guys so much. It's a pleasure to be a guest. I love your vision, Mary. I love what you're doing here. It's all about being accessible to our families and our elderly loved ones. So we're right in alignment there, and I look forward to talking to you more and seeing where we can, help more people. Thank you.
Sounds great. Have a great weekend, everyone. Thank you. Thanks, Eric. Bye.